Welcome to another brand new episode of Undisputed Anime. I am a very tired Taichou, Zane, Captain Taichou. As always, I am joined by my fantastic co-host, the Supreme Senpai, Susu Day.
I won that title, but I do not use it. I don't need that title.
Yeah, that's there we go. You just got it. You just own it. It's yours.
Just
now.
own it. I've got it in case I want it. Sorry about my very sad-looking plants in the background. They don't get enough water, sadly.
I thought you were going to say senpai is somewhere in between those plants. Then
No, it's just gonna. Oh, wait! It's just gonna pick it out.
There's that thingy one. Welcome, by the way. I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. This is the Undisputed Anime podcast, where we like to talk about anime, manga, and just everything else sort of otaku related. Today, as you probably saw from the title, we're going to give you our thoughts and reactions to the new My Hero Academia movie, World Heroes Rising. I'm never sure if I've got that in the right order.
It's World Hero Mission.
World Hero Mission. There's too many Hero Rising.
Yeah, what was Heroes Rising? Heroes Rising was a My Hero Academia thing. It was the previous one, wasn't it? It was the. Was it the first or second? I think it was the Heroes Rising was the second movie.
Yeah,
had to be the second movie.
If you were a betting man, which I know you are.
I don't know about that, but I think it was the second movie.
We will find out because I've got the notes here.
If I was a real professional, I would just know. And I do know because I'm 100% certain that I am right.
Exactly. Okay, so let's not dilly-dally. Dilly-dally, shilly-shally, as Tiffo once said.
Don't do this to me.
Don't. Let's talk about My Hero Academia. And by the way, we're going to go into full spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, pause it here, come back. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave now, like the video, maybe drop a comment saying, I'll see you later. Welcome back, by the way.
Your official spoiler cast warning.
Here we go. What would you like first? Should we talk about the synopsis and then do facts and figures? Or should we do facts and figures, then synopsis?
Let's start with the facts and the figures.
Facts and figures? Okay. So, reported by Mojo on Sunday, so very hot facts and figures. World Heroes Mission, the third anime movie in the My Hero Academia franchise, has earned about $6 million in US dollars from October 29th to the 31st, ranking at number 4 for the weekend.
Wow. A lot of weebs hitting the movie theaters.
I know. The film debuted at number 2 in the US on its opening day on Friday, earning an estimated $2,882,381 in 1,600 theaters. This is the bit that grind my gears. Funimation released a 76-page World Heroes Mission volume manga booklet featuring a special manga to theater goers from October 29th to the 31st in the US.
Yeah, it's feels bad. Feels bad, man.
Your boys in the UK were lost.
Missed out. I came home, I wept over my ancient Mew cards. As you do.
As you do. I mean, it's looking like this has done incredible numbers, not only in the US, but of course in Japan. The film is the highest earning among all three My Hero Academia franchise anime films, surpassing the 1.79 billion yen, which is about 16.2 million in US dollars.
Amazing.
So, yeah, by the way, the second movie was Hero Rising. Called it.
I just knew all along, no doubt, not a single doubt in my mind. Didn't question it for a second.
Now, here's one thing to bear in mind. In the US, My Hero Academia Hero Rising earned 13.3 million in theaters, although the film opened in February 2020, 2 weeks before many theater chains closed due to the pandemic. So it's slightly skewed because you never know, like, if it had more time, maybe Heroes Rising could have earned more money. But
absolutely,
as a flip side, it still made a killing. Like, it still made like a ridiculous
those
amount of money.
aren't bad numbers.
No.
So nice. Hey, love to see it.
The author again served as chief supervisor on original character design. Kenji Nakasaki returned from the television series and the two previous movies in the franchise to direct the new film at Bones. After returning, staff members included scriptwriter Yusuke Kurada, and character designer give me a second. Kushi. And we also got the returning composer, as well as a new addition, Asian Kung Fu Generation, perform the film's theme song, Empathy, and the film's inserted song, Flowers.
Love me some Asian Kung Fu Generation. That's just the feeling of watching anime when you're a teenager.
For those who don't know, Asian Kung Fu Generation are a J-pop band.
J-rock, yeah,
J-rock. But they have done some of the most amazing anime openings in history. It's fair to say. So if you're unfamiliar with their works, it's definitely worth checking out on your favorite streaming platform or on YouTube, because they have done incredible works for Naruto, Bleach, just to name a few.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Now I really want to listen to them.
Well, tough you're here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about this film.
Guess that won't be so bad.
So let's get into the synopsis. When a cult of terrorists ruins a city by releasing a toxin that causes people's abilities to spiral out of control, Japan's greatest heroes spread around the world in an attempt to track down the mastermind and put him to justice.
Intriguing. Tell me more.
What was your thoughts of the plot? Did you think this was decent?
I thought the plot was all right. I mean, I'm gonna imagine we'll go into it further as we discuss, but so I won't go into it too much now. But I do feel that it was a good synopsis, a good outline. I just think that the scope was too big. I think that the story might have been better told on a smaller scale, whereas because it was like world hero mission, it was like it was the whole world, and as a result of that, I feel like maybe a lot of the story kind of got lost in the scale of the setting, if you understand what I mean.
I understand what you mean. Like, it felt, I wasn't going. Was I going to complain? I probably would have. It is like a hero, like you said. It's a world event. Like, the whole world is
involved in like trying to solve this crisis. It's like there's heroes from every single country. Like, trying, and this like terrorist threat is happening. It's not just happening in one place; it's happening everywhere. And as a result of that, I think the pacing was a little bit off because of that. Because like they had to have like moments where there were just like like travel montages showing like in order to show how far they were traveling and that sort of thing, and how much time was passing while they did this. It's kind of like I felt like this story, while it was good, would have probably been better if they had just focused it right down onto like a large city and had everything happen within that city.
Agreed. Yeah. I felt like a city threat would have been just as perfect. With the whole world almost watching, it was bizarre. And the one thing that crossed my mind watching this is, okay, fair enough, they've decided to use the students to help. Like, of course they would. Like,
because they're on their internships, aren't they? This is canonically set, or I said, not saying that this is canonical, but it's set in the timeline of when they're doing their internships for like pro heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing that crossed my mind is there's a lot of students we don't see at all in A, action, or B, again, just outright not in this until like the last scene. So for example, early on, it kind of does this montage to show you like which students are in which part of the world helping out these heroes. So for example, the class president, Momo,
Yeah.
I believe she was in Egypt with Setsuna. Setsuna, the girl who can separate her body parts. But of course, the rest of like class 1B is like nowhere else.
You don't see them, do you? You see see Tetsutsu, and you see Ibara, and you also see Shishida as well. I'm actually now I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, I did see them, but they didn't have a speaking role. They were just kind of there, like
just there. Yeah. So yeah, and again, similar with 1A. Again, there's some that you do see. So, of course, you see Hawks with
Tokiyami.
Thank you. And such. And you see Zero and Ratto.
I think the only ones that we didn't see, like in earnest, I'm pretty sure we saw Ashido. We did definitely. I don't recall seeing Koda, and we also didn't see Hagakure. But I get the feeling that might have been the point because she is Invisible Girl, so she might have been there, but because she's invisible, it's kind of hard to know.
I don't remember seeing Tenya until the very end.
Yeah, I think you see Tenya at the very end when the crisis is over.
Yeah, and the students come home.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that like, I'm not here right now to, or not at this time anyway, to make like comparisons between the movies. But I think that what Heroes Rising did very well is because it was focused on that one island, and the only heroes on the island were Class 1A. Like everyone in the class got a chance to shine at some point or another during that movie. Like everyone got their moment in the spotlight.
Definitely, 100% agree with that. Do you want to jump in on villains?
Villains. We had the cult. It was a cult known as Humorize, who worship a doomsday theory, like the quirk doomsday theory, which basically states that quirks will eventually become so powerful that they will bring about the end of the world. And they believe that the only way to save the world is to rid it of people with quirks and only leaving the pure humans who don't have quirks, quirkless. And the cult is led by a guy. I remember his name. He's called Fleckton.
Yeah.
Who, from the offset, you look at him and you can see that even though he's the leader of this cult, he is someone who has a quirk. And you do find that because of the nature of the cult, you'd expect that it would all be quirkless, but no, there are a lot of quirkless in there, but they do have people with quirks who they've kind of like convinced or brainwashed into thinking that what they want for the world is what's best for them.
Yeah.
It's not really like I think I said this when we're done watching the movie. I think that the leader Flex is a
Hmm.
very good villain. I think
Yeah.
his backstory is really compelling. I think that he would have made a great like villain for a whole arc, because his whole deal was the reason that he was in this mindset was that his quirk is a permanent one. It's one that he can't turn off or turn on,
Yeah.
and it basically reflects anything that comes into contact with him, whether it be bad or whether it be good. His parents he'd never known his parents' love because they weren't able to touch him. Like
Yeah.
nothing can touch him, and as a result, it's kind of skewed his view on the world because he thought there isn't any way out of this. This is a curse, and no one can help me with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
I
the
felt.
cult,
Yeah.
it was good. It was a great. The villains were great. Like I think that it was a really good. Like I said, it would have been well placed as the center point of a whole series.
Yeah. It's surprising as well, like how you don't find out his backstory until almost like the final fight as well.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
considering he's like the big bad in all of this, you would expect to kind of maybe find out as the story went on, or very early on at least. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was a bit bizarre that they went, and here's his backstory. Like, just before we start throwing hands, like, here it
Yeah,
is. So yeah, that was a really bizarre choice, but like you said, really interesting, really complex, really push the boundary sort of quirk, but at the same time, like the whole organization, well, the whole sort of theme reminded me of X-Men in a certain way. You know, like X2, the
yeah,
movie where it's all about.
absolutely. Like genetic purity and stuff like that. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
mutants are like kind of a kind of a terrible abnormality, and if they're left to their own devices, there won't be any like pure humans left.
yeah, exactly. But the other thing I originally thought, which I thought tied into the manga, which is where when it finished, I had to go home and do some googling. Is I don't know if you remember, but back at the beginning of my villain arc, um, there was a group, and the group is called. This is in chapter 220, but the group is called the Church of Radical Cleansiness or Cleanness.
Cleansing?
Yeah, something along those lines. But basically, they're a group that the villains go to rob, because it's when they have like no money or anything, and they go to this group and they beat them up and everything else. Um, and I originally thought it was this group was the same as Human Rise
Oh
from the
yeah,
movie. Yeah, um, but it turns out it's not the same.
yeah, but you could. It's like that sort of like group would definitely spring up, and it wouldn't just spring up once. It'd probably spring up in a couple of places, like
Hmm.
groups with that sort of mindset. Like because when you think about the quirk system, and everyone's quirks are like kind of different, and some people have quirks that are deemed kind of like not valuable,
Hmm.
and people like that are going to group together and think that like the world is stacked against them, because the people who get successful, the people who do really well, are the people who have got like really amazing quirks,
Yeah.
whereas the people who don't have quirks or the people who have bad quirks are not going to have those same opportunities.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Another thing I thought was just a tiny bit bizarre about the villains as well is the tie-in into the last season of the anime. There was like this whole story about the injections that kind of
Oh yeah.
excel.
So it's the trigger drug, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Again, it was it wasn't until it actually happened in the movie, which is quite late on, that I kind of went, oh yeah, that's from that one episode where the seal hero stopped them.
Yeah. So like so the trigger drug that the villains take in order to increase their quirks capabilities and make them more powerful is like the whole cause of this whole thing, because
Yeah.
the terrorists are using these trigger bombs which have got a much stronger like version of the drug in it, and it basically causes that people who are exposed to its quirks to rapidly grow, and as a
Yeah.
result, like people who have got like flame quirks are just bursting into flames in the street. People like the whole opening scene of the movie is actually quite horrific,
It
because you're
is.
basically
Yeah.
watching these innocent people having their quirks run wild and end up like killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I can't remember what storyline, but I'm tying it back to X-Men again. X-Men again.
Hmm.
There was a storyline well back where there was it's so faint in my memory, but I remember there was this storyline of and there was this mutant whose power caused other people's powers to get stronger, like but she couldn't control it, and a villain wanted to use it, and there was this whole scene where it basically showed her all of the heroes who were trying to save her like dying with their powers like going out of control.
Oh
Like,
wow.
yeah, it was. I'll have to see if I can find it, because it was a really interesting story. Had like
Yeah.
this weird like sentient cerebro kind of like entity
Oh
in there. I'll
cool.
see if I can find it, because I think you'd find it really interesting.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't relate to it
Definitely.
right now, but it reminds me of that story.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting concept. Like you said, because again, in the opening scene, we see, like you said, people with laser eyes like cut buildings in half, and there's a woman who has like some sort of storm power, who's just you know shredding what looks like the inside of a building as well.
Yeah, just
So
like
yeah,
absolutely goes mental.
it was really traumatic, that opening sequence. Um, but moving on
Can we
to
talk about the real hero of this movie? Can we talk
yeah,
about the real star, and that is Rhodey?
yeah. Um,
I loved
oh
him.
boy, did you really?
I really liked him as a character, because for most of the movie I was like, he's got no quirk. He's just a guy with no quirk, and that's going to play a massive part in what's happening, because he's not going to be affected by the weapon
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And when you learn more of his backstory, because he came from like quite a wealthy background. His father
hmm,
was a scientist, and then one day his father disappeared, and it was announced that he had joined the terrorist group. And as a
yeah,
result of that, him and his younger siblings were like kind of outcast, and they weren't
hmm,
like, no one would interact with them, and they're now living in these like slums, and he's had to turn to crime in order to support them.
yeah,
And this is how he gets involved with the whole thing, because he's a pickup guy. Like like some villains robbed a jewelry store, and he was meant to pick up from them the goods.
yeah, yeah. Almost like a gun runner.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's how he got involved with Deku, because there was a commotion, and he accidentally picked up the wrong case, and the case contained important information about the Human Rise um, cult,
yeah,
well, terrorist group. So
yeah. He's definitely a charming character, and like the previous movies, and I guess to an extent, like any anime movie, like you have like the introduction character, don't you? So again, thinking back to the first My Hero movie, you had Melissa Shield, who
yeah,
was
yeah,
like David's daughter.
daughter, yeah, a
So
brilliant mind.
a brilliant mind. But yeah, it's with Roddy, I thought, yeah, very much a charming character. Um, My only gripe is maybe too much focus on Roddy.
Yeah, you think so?
Maybe a little bit. Like, again, like you said, he's got this amazing backstory and everything. And I know a rule of cinema is, just to use an example, because this is where I learned it from, was The Incredibles. So if you think about the Incredibles movie, there's this whole sequence where Elastigirl calls her old pilot mentor, and the whole idea is, she gets a plane. They're supposed to fly to the island with the kids and everything. Of course, the plane goes down, but they, survive. The original plan was that the mentor was supposed to pilot the plane, but he would have died in the sequence when the plane got shot out of the air. And that's why there's that scene where Elastigirl watches the plane sink underwater, because that would have been her sort of like
Knowing that person's gone down with
the plane, yeah. But Brad Bird, the director, said it would have been too short of time for the audience to have met that character, then cared enough when he was gone. So that's why they cut it out completely. I feel this is like almost like the same effect. We've introduced this character, but we're with him so much that by the end of the movie, we'll care so much about him, if you know what I mean. And at the same time, there's this whole sequence, which I'm sure you were going to probably get to at one point, but there's a whole sequence when Roddy and Deku go on the run together, which seems like for a couple of days at least. And we watch this whole journey of them on the run
this whole
together.
montage of them, like he stole a car, stole a car, and they're driving across the country.
Yeah,
and there's
the border,
and that's the point that we get one of the Asian Kung Fu Generation songs as well. That's when we get the Flowers song.
Exactly. I have to admit that took me out of the movie for a bit, because I was just kind of like,
I agree. I think that's what made ruin the pacing for me. I think it broke up the action. I think that just before that we had the encounter where he tried to get rid of the case by contacting the villains, or he contacted the police, and it ended up that they were going to try and kill him anyway.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. I feel like that I want to see more fighting there and less long journey. But saying that, despite that, one of the most interesting factors of the whole movie was finding out what his quirk was finally, and then realizing this has been telegraphed the entire movie since we've met this character. But now I'm only learning now, what his quirk is. And his quirk is I cannot remember for the life of me its name, but he has this little bird.
Isn't it Pico?
Pico or something like that, that follows him round. I think that for the most part, you're kind of led to believe that it's just some sort of companion or pet. But it actually turns out that this little bird is actually his quirk. And his quirk is basically that Pico will show that it prevents him from lying, because however he acts, Pico will always show his true feelings about a situation.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, there are so many whenever he does or says anything, the bird is doing something. And and stuff, and you start realizing, oh wow, he's his true intentions have always been right there. And it's not until the very near the very end of the final fight that you actually, it's because he tells Deku earlier in the movie, but it's never actually shown on screen. And it's not until you get to this final fight and you think that he's about to betray Deku that you learn what his quirk is, and it does a flashback, and you then Deku obviously knows that he's not trying to betray him, he's lying about it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The best way I describe it to someone who's not seen it is it's almost as if Ash and Pikachu, and no matter what Ash did, Pikachu would be his true feelings of that situation, regardless, right or wrong as well. Like Pikachu will always be his moral, shall we say, that we get to
Yeah,
see visually.
absolutely. If he says,
Uh,
if the character was to say, "I agree with what's happening right now," then the companion would be basically acting like it does not agree in a
yeah,
very obvious way.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a very interesting quirk, very interesting like concept idea and stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, it's really cool. The other thing I wanted to touch on was visuals, because this movie has some incredible like action sequences.
Oh yeah.
How did you find the sequences?
I love them. In true like anime movie fashion, like
Mm,
most of the fight scenes are or action sequences are great, but as you go through the movie towards the end, they go up in quality.
yeah.
Because the scene at the beginning where the heroes are all dropping in is great, but then the
Mm,
scene where Tokidori, Bakio, and Deku are like chasing the villains through the streets,
yeah.
even like gets better. Then there's like Deku and the others fighting on that cliffside,
Yes.
and
With
they
the
come
chopper.
with the chopper, yeah. And then it goes on to like them storming this base, like the main base, and like I mean, can we just talk about those fight scenes because they were?
Yes.
I mean, Pacquiao's was great. Tokidori's was less so.
Yeah.
I think it was a wasted opportunity.
Mm,
Um, but I get the feeling that it's kind of like they obviously wanted him to be one. They needed him to be a one of the trio because of the hero placements,
yeah.
because of the internships. And while he's incredibly powerful, I think that there's a lot of ways that the scale of his quirk, like his quirk, kind of restricts him in a lot of ways, or in a lot of ways that he can be utilized.
Hmm.
I think because he's not quite as strong as his dad yet,
Yes.
and obviously Endeavor is able to kind of like fly and do all this other stuff.
Yeah. It's yeah. On the subject of Shoto and his final fight, shall we say, um, with the last movie, the fight sequence with Chimera was amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was really cool. Again, they use waterfalls. I feel like there's a theme there. He used waterfalls, and there's like a massive explosion. But I don't know if they've peaked early with the provision exam, because that visual from the exam, I think, is his best animated fight we've seen so far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like with him, like just going 150% on the whole situation.
Yeah, on Deku.
And so even going back as far as like the school competition, where it's like
Hmm.
literally like where he's fighting Deku, and Deku encourages him to use his like fire sight, and like that whole scene
Oh, that's
was
what I meant. Sorry.
oh
Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
yeah
yeah. And then he raises his hand, and you see the vapors like
yeah.
come from his fingertips. Like, yeah, I think that's insane. But I feel, ooh, I feel like that's probably his best fight sequence, even after three movies. Like,
Mm.
which is a shame because they can make some really great visuals, and
I
this
think that
movie's a testament to that.
his power is like such a grand power. I think
Mm,
so. I think whenever we see it implemented, it's always used in like usually used in a very big way.
yeah,
And I think that, like I said, in a lot of ways, that kind of restricts the ways that they can like show it
I see.
because he's like kind of like he's like not the precision weapon. He's like the weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, he's definitely got the range attacks and such
But then we
in
got
comparisons.
then we got Bakio's scene, which was
Mm,
which was great because it was a perfect demonstration of who he is as a character.
yes.
Always like he's like this asshole, but he is also like he's just really good. He's just a
Yeah,
real he's very talented. He's very strong, and he's so sure of himself, and that's all just shown so well in every fight scene I ever see him in.
exactly. Yeah, and the one thing I really like about this fight sequence is the constant sort of backing. Not so much backing down, but the way his relentlessness, like he kept fighting even though he was, beaten
Getting
down a few
torn
times.
apart, yeah, it was
Yeah,
bad times for him.
it was a tough watch, I have to admit. Like I was like, oh no, like there's that moment where I'm like, oh, is he really? They're gonna
What, where he
they're
gets
really
like
gonna hurt him?
run
Like,
through, like he gets
yeah,
run through in
and
while
they
he's in midair and
split
can't dodge.
his eye as well, isn't there? Like they
Yeah,
split his eye and stuff. Like, and you're like, oh, this is like rough to watch. And then, like you said, he just goes
he had a plan the whole
pyro,
time.
pyro psycho.
Yeah, it
And
turns out that he was like filling up like his like grenades the whole time he was fighting and dodging, and laying his grenades everywhere around this fucking giant tower.
yeah, yeah, that was insane. But again, visually incredible.
Yeah.
But there's some smaller sequences as well, like where Roddy is running with the suitcase and the camera. They try to almost do like a one take, feels like sort of sequence where the camera just stays on Roddy and he's like jumping between buildings and sliding under things. If you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that scene was like so like smooth. It was like really
Yeah,
clean.
but so almost original because I can't think of anything I've seen that's done that like before. So I was just like,
Yeah.
oh wow, they're really like, and that's an early scene as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
they're going to push the bow out on this. Like, fair
And,
play to Bones.
that was one of the reasons why I was like that scene was probably the main reason was like this guy doesn't have a quirk, because I was like
Yeah.
he was just I was like, this guy is just a guy who is gotten by through the use of like incredible like free running,
Mm,
like
yeah.
incredible parkour and stuff like that. He's managing to kind of like get by because of
Yeah.
these skills he's got, not because of a quirk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And similar, there's the whole sort of web slinging sequence with Midoriya on the bridge.
On the fridge, that was so that just made me want to play any Spider-Man game.
Yeah. I know the author is a big Marvel fan. At the same time, like that, that was a carbon copy of any sort of Spider-Man game or
It was
movie you've ever seen.
bananas. It was so, and it was again, it was such clean animation.
Yeah.
Like it was so like there was not a single moment that it slowed down,
No.
but it just felt great all the way through that whole like chase.
Absolutely.
Um,
Should we talk about the final fight?
oh, absolutely, because everyone knows what kind of final fight it's gonna be, or at least
Yes.
they'll know exactly what will come in a final fight of a My Hero Academia movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Interesting again because the villain's main ability is reflection. So no matter how hard Midoriya / Deku punched him, he would feel the force back on himself.
Which is so it made him the perfect kind of like counter for One for All,
Yes,
because no matter how hard Deku hit him, he would only be receiving that strike back on himself.
exactly. Yeah, the perfect sort of counter. But it's the it's the extent where Deku almost, I don't know how to describe it. Would you say he used 100%? Like,
It absolutely reached that point in the movie where he felt the power of the previous holders of One for
mm,
All, and he realized that so the fight seems like hopeless most of the way through with but Deku doesn't give up, because he's like, I've got to stop this guy, otherwise
mhm,
hundreds and thousands of people are going to die. So he
yeah,
keeps getting up, keeps attacking, even though he's getting beat down by his own strength.
mhm,
But he does eventually start to realize that this guy's like power is weakening
yeah,
with every strike. It's still like he's still getting all his feedback back on himself, but he is like he's getting closer to actually getting through to this guy. And it gets to this point where after a long while of that, Rhodey's come back into it. He's like, he's going to take care of disarming the bombs. So Deku's like, okay, I can focus on the fight. And then there's that beautiful moment where all of the previous holders of One for All connect. It does that scene where it's in the darkness and it shows the different colored lights links
Pinging
together,
off
and
one another. Yeah.
and he hears All Might in his head and stuff like that. And at that point, he does go 100% because he gets the same. It's the same like power style as when he got to go 100% because he had Eri with him, and his eyes do that like really like cool like kind of like flame, like his pupils change and stuff. And that scene is just absolutely batshit. It is like he's just it's like I'm watching Luffy like do Gatling gun.
Yeah. I thought of One Punch Man in some weird way. I was like, it was like something straight out of One Punch Man.
But yeah, it was so good, and there was that moment where he was punching so fast that he split into like 2 other after images and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was. I couldn't even describe that scene because I was just like, I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. Because he was just standing still, but like you said, 2 other versions of him just slowly separate from him.
Yeah, it was so good, and like all the while, like, and at this point, because he's going 100%, this guy's power is constantly active, but Deku's going so fast and so strong, he's kind of like they're at a stalemate where the repelling force is like kind of being repelled by Deku's own like strength, and it's absolutely mental. It was probably. I hate it when like I put it down to like a single fight scene, especially one like right at the end. But it was like that probably my favorite scene, like in the film. It made me feel so good to watch. It was just. I think I said this to you and our other friend as we left. Is like I will 100% always be all about like anytime Deku is able to go 100%.
Yeah.
And of course, he fucked up his arms. Apologies for my language there. He messed up his arms like big style again, but it's a movie, so
Yeah, he doesn't come out unscathed, but it's like you said, visually it's stunning, and they always are. These movies, they're always visually a spectacle.
yeah.
Does it bother you that this isn't canon?
No, I think for the most part, I prefer it. So with there are obviously rare exceptions like Demon Slayer, like Demon Train, like that was a movie which was it was made to actually fill a portion, an arc of the story.
Yeah.
So that's one of those rare exceptions where it's like I'm really glad they did that because it's a great arc, and to see it in like to get a movie budget on it was great. But I think for the most part, I kind of like it when the movies are kind of removed from the main canon, and I do like it when there's like references. Like, so I know we obviously know where this is placed. We know that this is like during the internships, or the placements. It's like kind of like in Heroes Rising, we kind of there were ties back to the main story because of was it 7?
9.
Oh, 9, yeah. So I got the wrong number. You had 9, and 9 was obviously like a precursor for Shigaraki, wasn't he?
Yes.
So that was a nice tie-in, and of course he showed up at the very end of the movie to take care of like his predecessor.
Yeah, basically.
So it's like it's good, but I think that having it removed allows them to kind of like do some really massive, crazy things without having people go, okay, well, this happened. Why is it that like they're not talking about it in the like main story? Like, why is it that they were able to do like? I think that the best example I can think of is with Naruto movies, because in every single Naruto movie you get a unique Rasengan sequence.
Yes.
And it's like if that was part of the main canon, then it's like, why does Naruto not have like these like 15 variations of Rasengan that he
Of
can use?
Rasengans.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely,
So they could,
absolutely.
because the movies like kind of allow them to mess around with powers that might be a bit too crazy for the main story.
Yeah, yeah, and give a brief reason why they can only use it this one time.
Like a special, like you getting your power from like this special like energy source that's only in this movie, or it's
Yeah,
like
that's
like in a Heroes Rising where he's able to like give Kachan like one for all, and they're able to both go like beyond 100%, and there's that. I don't even have words to describe the scale of that scene.
yeah,
But that could only happen in a movie.
exactly. Without a shadow of doubt, that can only happen in the movie. Yeah, similar. I'm not too bothered about it being canon or not. I kind of like the nods, like you say, a bit like um, you can tell when it takes place in continuity. Um, at the same time, I really do like the first movie because it has so many ties to the manga and such. Because I think there is actually like a one-shot manga called All Might Rising, which is where it got like a lot of material from about David Shield and designing his outfits and stuff like that. So I kind of like those little things, but at the same time, yeah, they're just spectacles, I guess.
Yeah, if you can
High
remove
end.
if you can remove it, put it in its own self-contained little area, and just then you can go as crazy as you want without any consequences, can't you?
Mm.
So, but still, I would have loved to have seen Flex as like the villain of an arc. Obviously the manga is well ahead of the anime
Hmm.
currently, so we obviously know that couldn't that's not going to happen now,
Yeah.
and it couldn't happen now. But in an alternate reality, he was the main villain of a whole like series.
Maybe you should write it, or maybe
Maybe
even
we'll do another
villains.
episode.
Not villains, vigilantes. You know,
Yeah,
that could always recycle
Vigilantes.
the content
Love a
there.
Vigilantes movie as well. That would be pretty cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. One last thing is your verdict. Would you say this is undisputed, or would you say disputed?
It's a tough one because it's definitely not disputed.
Mm.
It's Is it the best? Is it the best of the three movies? I don't think so. I think it had the potential to be the best, but
Mm.
I think that, like I said earlier on, the main issue for me was that the general plot was good. I just think that the scale, the kind of scale of the place where the story was set was too large. If it
Yeah,
had been on a smaller scale, if the threat had been just as large, but it had been more self-contained, like I think, and they could have like maybe instead of having like that massive like 3 or 4 minute long like montage, we could have had like a fight scene in a more busy area or something
yeah,
like that. I think that would have been pretty cool. So is it disputed? No, I'd say that for the sake of this, because we've only got two
yeah.
metrics here, it's undisputed. But is it the best of the three movies? I'd say not. I'd say that Heroes Rising was probably better because I think they got the pacing.
Yes,
They got the pacing better.
100% agree with you. Undisputed movie for me. I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's incredible.
I'd watch again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I've watched the other two on numerous occasions. I think they're both on Netflix now as well, by the way, especially
Wonderful.
here in the UK. I know the first one is definitely because I've watched it so many times. Um, but it doesn't beat the second movie. The second movie is definitely better.
It was just good, and it had like an amazing, like the music in this one was great, but that final fight scene combined with that really like haunting, grand like adaptation of the music of the usual theme for a final battle was great. So
absolutely, I would say once this comes out on Blu-ray and is released everywhere else, maybe on streaming platforms and everything, get ready to see loads of TikToks of that final fight.
yeah,
if
absolutely.
if you don't already, because man, that sequence is incredible.
Yeah, and if you get a chance to give it a watch, give it absolutely. It's definitely something that I didn't feel like I'd wasted money going to see it. Like it was a good movie experience. It was as grand as you want for like the big screen. I am a bit sad that like it got to be seen in a much better cinema quality in other regions of the world.
Yeah, that's not fair on us.
Because
Show the UK some love.
What did they get it in the US? I can't remember what it was.
4DX.
It was 4DX that they got it in. So I was like, I would have paid to see that.
Going by Twitter anyway, from what I saw on Twitter, it looked like
I would have paid to see that in 4DX. I think that would have been a great experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wonder how much your chair would swing around like during those fight sequences. And
probably a lot. It would probably be like what I mean. We didn't see that in 4DX, but it'd probably be like watching the Dragon Ball Super movie, like Broly. Because it felt like that the noise in that the sound in that was so grand, it felt like the whole room was moving.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Super. I guess that is everything. So that's our final verdict on. I'm going to try and make sure I get this right, even though it's on screen. My Hero Academia, the movie World Heroes Mission.
Go and watch it if you can.
Go and watch it.
If you can, watch it when it comes out. If you can't do that, you should watch old episodes of this show.
Yeah, fantastic plug. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. By the way, it's probably worth mentioning. Thank you so much if you've liked our previous videos. By the way, I've noticed like there's been a lot more likes on those videos on YouTube. So thank you for that. That's really appreciated. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, hello you. Listen to this. Hey. Make sure you're also liking the video. Liking this on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a star rating if you're listening to this on iTunes.
Recommend it to your friends.
Yeah, do that. That's cool. Also, I'm going to say this here and now. Whilst you're still listening, I'll be at the MCM Comic Con in Birmingham. That's coming up. That's right. So if you
meet Senpai Zane in person.
If you happen to be on the floor, I won't have a table or anything. I'll just be going around looking at merch and everything. But if you do happen to see me, come up to me, say hello, let me know that you listen to this or watch this on YouTube. That'd be great. I'll say hi.
Give your anime hot take.
Yeah, we want to hear them. And yeah, I look forward to seeing any of you who happen to be at the Comic Con. Susie Day, you got anything else you want to add?
Stay hydrated. Also, get plenty of sunlight. With daylight savings times, things are getting darker earlier, and some people don't like that. So make sure you get some sunshine, get some of those good, happy chemicals in your brain going.
Great advice. Great advice. Dr. Susie Day here.
MD.
MDM. Super. So that's everything. Thanks again for checking this out. And we shall. Oh, we got some people in the comments, by the way.
Hey. Well,
I mean, it's live, so make sure that you are watching this and subscribing. And as we were saying, we shall catch you in the next episode. Oh, actually, before we do go, I just had a thought. Are we gonna we'll do our winter lineup of animes to watch? I know a lot of people like those videos. That's a
Should do
big
that.
thumbs up from Susude.
Stretched across the screen.
Super. Okay, cool. We'll catch you in the next one. Winter anime to watch.
Absolutely. Sorry, this is my lift. So, bye, guys.
Bye.